A Rich History of Service to Fellow Veterans by Stuart Nelson. An archive photo accompanies this section. The scanned image reveals 4 formally dressed gentlemen standing together side by side, all sporting a serious look. 3 of the 4 are wearing dark glasses. All are wearing ties, which are considerably wider than those of 2023. 2 of the 4 men are wearing dark suits, while one is in a light-colored suit. The 4th is wearing a separate plaid sport coat and dark slacks. In the background, clipped to a curtain, are 2 matching posters containing the Blinded Veterans Association name and emblem. A third poster, situated between the other 2, is partially concealed by one of the heads in the photo. The visible portion explains that the Field Service Program's purpose is to assist the blinded veteran to become a productive member of the community, and that this process can begin by contacting one of the representatives. The caption states, "Left to right, Field Service Director Dennis Wyatt, with Field Service Representatives Buddy Spivey, Robert Utley, and Don Garner." The full write-up begins as follows. With perhaps only a couple of exceptions, I have at my fingertips the hard copy of every issue of the Bulletin since that historic first edition of April 15, 1946. Volume 1, Number 1, was an 8-page newsletter composed on an old typewriter, the copies of which appear to have been produced by a mimeograph machine, for anyone old enough to remember such a process, and then mailed to the members of the newly organized Blinded Veterans Association. Access to the Bulletin has provided me with some insight into some of the influential figures and important events in BVA's history that have shaped and brought the organization to where it is today. However, with 78 years to digest and a history that has affected thousands of blinded veterans, I am little more than a novice when it comes to BVA and its rich history, particularly when it comes to the ways in which blinded veterans have been assisted and lifted by their fellow veterans both individually and institutionally. Serving as an editor of the Bulletin, but still, nevertheless, as that historical novice, I sometimes overlook a milestone, something of real historical significance, to BVA. Perhaps never did that fact ring truer for me than it did recently with an email in early May from Dr. Dennis Wyatt of the Florida Regional Group, one of the association's past national presidents. He had first contacted me last November, and, after reading a small biographical blurb about himself that we included as a "Did You Know" filler in the last issue, he emailed me again. Dennis reminded me in both messages that the year 2023 marks the 50th anniversary of a newly revived and expanded field service program funded through a contract with the Veterans Administration, the objective and essence of which were unprecedented but continue today as our Veteran Service Program, currently managed by National Service Director Dwayne Driscoll and National Service Officer and BVA member Marlene Davis Lilly. BVA was close to going under financially at the time, and the funding we received from the VA contract and then a later grant from the Department of Labor literally saved the organization, Dennis said. In January 1973, Dennis was appointed as the National Field Service Director and assumed his duties at BVA National Headquarters, at the time located on DeSales Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. Shortly thereafter, upon interviews by an ad hoc committee, 3 additional field service representatives were selected to serve in various parts of the United States. Don Garner for the Northeast, Buddy Spivey for the Central United States, and Robert Utley for the Far West, and Dennis himself for the Southeast region, Alaska, Hawaii, and any international areas where blinded veterans may be residing. Each of us will not only be handling a geographic area, but will specialize in certain areas of interest that will complement the goals of the program and our own individual aptitudes and experiences, Dennis wrote at the time. He went on to elaborate on Buddy's experience with prosthetic devices and vocational rehabilitation programs, Don's aptitude with lower vision aids, Robert's legal education and training, and his own knowledge of employment of the disabled. Because of the demanding nature of the work and the large number of veterans being helped, however, the assignments in the end were strictly geographic, Dennis told me during a recent call. There was really no time to realistically devote to those specialized areas of interest, he said. The stated objective of the newly revamped program was to seek out blinded veterans throughout the United States to ascertain their needs and to bring them into contact with the facilities of what was then known as the Veterans Administration and local community service agencies to assist them in their total rehabilitation. As unusual as it now seems, funds for the program came from VA through a negotiated contract with BVA in pursuance of this objective. A native of Missouri and a Vietnam-era veteran, Dennis was a 30-year-old father of a young son at the time of his appointment as director of the program. He was first affected by vision problems in 1966 while in flight training when one eye developed histoplasmosis, a fungus-like disease that attacks the optic nerve and destroys central vision. Within a year, the disease spread to the second eye, leaving him with peripheral vision only. As mentioned in the Did You Know?, Dennis was later elected to the BVA National Board of Directors as National Secretary, National Vice President, and National President. He also served as a special assistant to the VA Administrator, now a cabinet position, during the Carter administration. Although very young at the time, he brought a wealth of training and experience to BVA as a former member of the Executive Board of the Dayton Council for the Blind, a delegate to the National Federation of the Blind of Ohio, a member of the Mayor's and Governor's Committees on Employment of the Handicapped, and a member of the National Rehabilitation Association. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree at Southwest Missouri State University in 1965 prior to losing his sight, a Master of Business Administration from Wright State University in 1972, and a doctorate in Adult Technical and Vocational Education from the University of Cincinnati shortly thereafter. Although not funded by the same contract with VA, the field service program continued and even expanded further, eventually reaching 7 representatives and a director until its recent consolidation and decentralization back to the national headquarters beginning in 2014.